financial institutions like banks offer accounts for people trying to save money over a short period of time. You might be saving for a car, going on a holiday, or a house deposit, things like that. And so you'll be looking around for which interest rates are the best, and then you'll be having to deposit some money in that to start it off. And depositing more money over time can actually attract more interest rates. So if you're prepared to make payments, say once a week or once a month, that sort of thing. So maybe if you've got a part-time job and you're earning some money, you might put some aside into that savings account quite regularly. They'll also charge fees for the service of setting that up. Maybe sometimes not if you're students, but you have to make sure you read all the terms and conditions. Okay, so high interest rates are often awarded if certain conditions are met. So you might earn a higher rate if you, as I mentioned before, deposit some money in regularly, kind of to show your commitment, if you like, that you're going to leave the money in the bank, and also that you don't withdraw from that account within a month. Sometimes you'll get that higher rate than if you don't withdraw, or a more standard rate otherwise. So it's really encouraging you to sort of commit to saving and leaving your money in the bank for a while. Now, commonly the interest is calculated each day, and it's usually paid at the end of the month. So obviously needing to know the number of days in each month, but you've got to have a think about that. If you have, say, $500 in the account to start with, and then at the end of the month, if it's still $500, that's fine, that's easy to calculate. But if you add some money in, then the amount that the interest has been calculated on has changed. And likewise, if you withdraw some money, the amount that the interest has been calculated on, that principal amount, has changed as well. So we're going to work through an example to show you how all of this works. Here's our example. Patricia has an account that pays 3.4% interest, and we need to find out how much interest she earned in the month of April. So let's have a look through this table. So on the 1st of April, her opening balance, either left over from last month or that's how much she deposits, is this number here, $1,340.72. Now, it doesn't stay like that for the whole month. What happens? On the 18th of April, she withdraws $240, so she needed it for something. So what happens to that amount, the principal, if you like? It's decreased. So the way to get this number on the right here is the 1340.72 subtract 240, and that's how we're left with this number here. And then that goes along for a few days, and then on the 27th of April, she adds in some money, $1,600 this time. And so that $1,600 is added on to the previous balance to create a new balance. So noticing that the balance changes on the 18th here, the little note that we've got here. So the first 17 days had a balance of the 1340.72 number. So 17 days at that amount. Let's see how we're going to work this out. I guess you might use a table, one for each section, one row for each section. So to work out the interest, it's actually simple interest is the formula that we use to calculate that. And hopefully you remember that that's I is equal to PRT, where P is the principal, R is the rate in a decimal form. So that would be 0.034, and T is time in years, but we'll get to that. How do we do this first line? So for 17 days, from the 1st of April to the 17th of April, it's the principal, P, so there's that number over here, that 1340.72, there's our principal, multiplied by the rate at a decimal, 0.034, multiplied by the time in years. Now, we don't have a whole year, we've got a bit of a year. We've got 17 days in a year, and so you would represent that by a fraction, so 17 over 365. Calculate them, that's $2.12. You might be wondering, but do I include the 18th of April or not in that first, looks like 18 days? Well, have a think about this. When does the day 18 start? Let's say at midnight, so to speak. Somewhere on that 18th, that money came in. That $240 came in on the 18th. So from the 18th onwards, the balance has changed, that principal amount. So you can't count the 18th. It stayed at that balance amount, the first one, for 17 whole days, and that's what we're calculating the interest on. Let's apply the same process to each step of that table there. So the second time round now, we're doing from the 18th of April. So we need the principal amount. All right, we've worked that one out here by subtracting $240. The rate is still the same, the 0.034, And the time, certain number of days. So between the 18th of April and the 27th, but not counting the 27th, because on the 27th, it changed again. So you could sit here with your fingers and calculate it, and I'm going to show you how to do it on a calculator in a minute. So you count the 18. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I got to 9. So it's 9 days, as you can see from our little note here as well. So don't count the 27th. So it's 9 out of 365 days, and that's what we've got written here. So this is the working out, if you like. This is what you would type into your calculator, you should write on your page. So that's the important part to see. And then the last part. So just tidying that up. So on the 27th of April, she deposits $1,600. So that has changed the principal amount to this $2,772. And the interest is going to be calculated on that. Now you have to think, how many days in April? 30 days has September, April, June and November. So 30 days. So it's on the 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th. So we've got 4 days there. And this time you do count that last day. So it's 4 days out of 365 using the same formula here. The principal is this number here, the new balance, interest rate stays the same. And then this is the time frame. So going back to answer the question, find the interest paid during April. What would you do? Well, you would add up those 3 numbers that you had for the interest amounts. So these 3 numbers added up, she earned $4.05 of interest during the month of April. Just a little side note here on calculator instructions. So finding a way to do that. Have your graphics calculators handy, please. So we're in the financial menu, or if you've got an older model, it's the TVM menu. Go into that. F6, you have to arrow across to see another screen, and then within that F2 is days calculation. So it's going to be set up in this model. Notice that the month comes first. So if you're in Australia listening to this, we traditionally do it the other way around, but for this calculator, this is how we need to do it. So let's think back to that question, some of the times that we had. So what we've got written here is the 18th of April to the 27th of April. Now, notice that this time round, for the calculator, we do include that 27. I think I've got a note written here. So because the calculator does not include that 27th day, you're giving it the bookends, if you like, the beginning and the end dates, and it's going to calculate within that. It is assuming that the balance has changed on D2, on that day 2, so that doesn't count the 27th. And therefore, that's how we would get the 9. What about the last little part there? From the 27th of April, as you remember back from our question, to the 30th. Now this is interesting. So it's only given us 3. When you push the PRD, I confess I'm not exactly sure what the PRD means. I'm going to guess prediction or something like that. Somebody comment and tell me if you can work out what that button is an abbreviation of. So here's our note here. You have to know that the calculator counts the days in between those dates. So it has not counted the 30th. So whenever you do the calculator calculation for the last part of the month, you need to add on that last day. You have to add on the 30th. So the number of days there is the 3 plus 1 to give us 4. Okay, I hope that's helped to explain how to calculate some savings here, counting by hand for the days or using your calculator to perhaps double check that you've worked out the days. There's some questions to do now. Subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for joining me.